Hello everyone, I'm Dead Knight and this is In It to Win It. Today we're going to be looking at the Hunter card pool for Forged in the Barrens for the first expansion in the Year of the Griffin. So we're going to say what my pick is for the best card in the set, my pick is for the worst card in the set, and the card that is worth the most discussion. So right before we get into it, I'll remind you to subscribe below and we'll get you all the updates you need to see whatever other hot takes and first takes that we have for Hearthstone. So, what is the best card for Hunter? For me, it is Tavish Stormpike. This guy is a 2/5 for 3 mana, and whenever a beast attacks for you, then it summons another beast that costs 1 less from your deck. So, this card is a little bit clunky, but I expect it to be heavily slept on, and this guy has the potential to just go absolutely bananas on the board in a couple of ways that are relevant to standard right now. And then obviously it has a very high ceiling as cards get printed that could make this card be especially good. So the first thing that we can talk about is what is already out there for this guy to abuse. The first thing to remember is that we have Trampoline Rhino, which is a great rush minion. It's a 5/5 for 5 that rushes and deals excess damage to your opponent's face. So you can play this guy, which will then bring you to your 4-cost rush minion, which is Mok'Nathal Lion. So even if it comes out without copying your opponent's death rattle, it's still a 5/2 rush, which is probably going to take out one of your opponent's minions. That brings us to our 3-mana rush minion, which is Zixor. So obviously the 2/4 for 3 rush that death rattles into making Zixor prime and giving you a whole board full of 4/4s. That's huge as well. So the thing with this guy is if you have rush minions like this, you can just fill the board full of rush minions and just devastate your opponent's board. This reminds me of a Magic the Gathering card called Bloodbraid Elf, which had an ability called Cascade, which is you'd look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and then any of them that cost less than Bloodbraid Elf would come out onto the board. And so you had this tiering where it'd be like Bloodbraid Elf costs 4 mana, so you pull a 3-mana card, then a 2-mana card, and a 1-mana card. So this guy, the way that rush minions are set up, you could pull up a 5-mana rush minion like Trampoline Rhino, which gets you into a 4-mana and a 3-mana and a 2-mana beast all at once. If you don't have rush minions, this guy could still work if you already have a beast on the board, but that is much less easy to do. This also works if they ever print a beast that gets cheated out, and this the same way that Bladed Lady gets cheated out if you have weapons. Bladed Lady is a 6/6 for 6 rush, but if you have 6 attack with your hero, then it only costs 1. But it's still a 6-cost card. So if you have something like that where you have, say, an 8-cost beast with rush that can cost 1 if some condition is met, then you could potentially play Stormpike for 3 mana, this theoretical cheated out beast, which will then get you another high cost card. So that's where the ceiling is on this guy. And you could basically see, as long as you have a beast that costs 7 mana or less with rush, you could potentially cascade an entire board out of beasts. So the potential of this card is really high. And even if you don't go completely bonkers like that, even if you just play a Mok'Nathal Lion, you're still getting 3 extra beasts out on the board because of Stormpike. So huge card, a lot of potential, and I expect people to ignore it at first, and then once they realize how good it is probably going to take over the meta. Also at 5 health, it is not super easy to remove, so you could even potentially play this guy on turn 3 and then play a beast on the next turn because it might live, which is also pretty huge. So now we're going to contrast that amazing card with what I think is the worst card in the set for Hunter, which is Prospector's Caravan. Prospector's Caravan is a 1/3 for 2 mana that at the start of your turn gives all minions in your hand +1/+1. So the first thing you think of is this seems good for 2 mana. You're going to potentially be buffing guys in your hand, all the minions in your hand for +1/+1, and this could snowball, giving you lots of +1/+1s. The odds of that happening are slim to none. The reason for that is because you don't get the buff until the start of your turn, which means that your opponent can respond to this before you get any bonuses from it. As a 1/3 for 2 mana, you got to think about what an aggressive player is going to be playing for their turn 2, which is probably a 3-2. So, or it'll be a 2-3 with something already on the board, which means that this guy is probably not going to ever ping for you because they're going to kill it with minions in an aggressive deck. And then you got to think of what spells are like. Most spell damage in the early game is going to cost 2 mana and deal 3 damage and do something else for your opponent, like lifesteal, for example. So think about Penance, think about Drained Soul, think about Lightning Bolt. Think about how every class has some way to respond to this guy and kill it before it gives you anything. So it's probably going 1 for 1 or 0 for 1 if it just gets overpowered by minions, and you're not going to get the buff. So I don't see this guy really getting any action. I think that people who do try to make it work are going to find that the one attack is going to make it not trade with anything and not be as aggressive as they think it's going to be. It is absolutely not as good as the paladin buffs like Grime Street, Outfitter, and Smuggler's Run, and I think it's just going to do nothing. And now, as far as what is the card worth discussion, I'm going to go with Kolkar, Pack Runner. This guy is a 2-3 for 2 mana, and whenever you play a spell, you get a 1-1 hyena that has Rush. So this is a pretty cool card because stat-wise, it is fit for the early game as a 2-3. So if somebody does have a strong early minion, you can often trade with it, at least. But if this sticks, or if you combo it when you play it, then you are going to be able to play your spells that are going to already be worthwhile because they were in your deck, and you're going to be able to get 1-1 hyenas with Rush to try to contest the board. So you don't lose any tempo while playing these spells that are helping you. So that's really cool. It's a really refreshing way to see people get some action out of spells, because one of the problems with spells is while you're affecting your opponent's board state with spells or improving your board state with spells, you're usually not doing both at the same time. Whereas with this card in play, you can do that because you can kill your opponent's minions with the hyenas, or you can stack the board full of hyenas while doing other things for you. You can combo this with something like Lock and Load, or you can play lots of spells, and even if the random ones aren't that good, at least they're generating hyenas that you can contest the board with. So a lot of potential for this card, and at a 2-3 for 2 stat line and mana costs, you can play this early in the game without feeling like you lost too much value, and if it sticks to the board, you can go crazy with it. You can play it late game and immediately start playing spells and getting hyenas. So very flexible card. I'm interested to see where it goes. So what do you think is the best, worst, and most exciting hunter card in Forge of the Barrens? Leave a respectful comment below. Don't forget to subscribe, and tune in next time.